Super Rugby round number 5, folks. The lineups are out. The fixtures are on the board. 2 games Friday, 4 games Saturday. Let's go through the lineups, who's in, who's out, a few stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. Keeping in mind this round number 5, is the Super Kids round. So a bunch of the clubs on both sides of the Tasman, I think Fiji as well, are basically putting on special events for the kids, be it some kind of giveaways, activities, entertainment. The idea being that the youngsters can kind of get into the game and get close to some of their kind of heroes from the Super Rugby pitch. So yeah, some of the clubs are even doing limited numbers of free ticket giveaways. So if you are thinking of going to one of the games, it's probably a great chance to take the little ones and check your team's social media page to see if they have any of those free tickets left. Well worth a look. In terms of the games, Hurricanes Rebels is the first one this weekend. The Hurricanes have made a bunch of changes for this game in Palmerston North, but they are bolstered. Biggest bit of news is the return of Brand Shields. He missed the start of the season with injury, but the captain is back at number 6. Also, CHIvHIG gets a start this week. Nani Punivai is going to get his Hurricanes debut from the number 13 jersey. Ada Morgan is going to get a start this week. Sinkinson and Godfrey are going to get their first starts of the season at 14 and 15. So yeah, very much a kind of overhauled squad for this game against the Rebels. The Hurricanes have been in good form, so it'll be interesting to see if that kind of change does any disruption to the kind of cohesion that they've got going on. But they're also bolstered by the return of Geordie Barrett. So remember, he served a couple of games suspension, so him being back alongside the captain Brad Shields, certainly a bit of good news. For the Rebels, a bit more stable, a couple of new props. The starting props have been benched, and the bench props are starting this week. But Kobus Eloff on the bench is a heck of a return. That guy is a proper entertaining prop. So to have Eloff and Tupou coming off the bench is certainly going to be worth the price of admission. Salakai Aloto is still there. Leota is still there as captain. Lowrens and Carter Gordon still 9-10. So largely pretty stable. Lucas Ripley comes into the side as well in the number 13 jersey. But Andrew Callaway has probably been the star of the show for the Rebels this year. He's leading heaps of the attacking numbers. Like he's gotten tries. He got one last week. He's hitting the run meter table and whatnot. So yeah, certainly a danger man at the back. The other of the Friday games is the Brumbies taking on Moana Pacifica from Canberra. The Brumbies have also kind of tinkered with the squad a little bit, but certainly not wholesale changes. They got Harry Vella, who's the loosehead prop, who's on his Super Rugby debut, so congratulations to him. They are dealing with a few injuries with likes of Ikitau out, Muirhead out, Blake Scoop is out, so some of these changes are kind of injury enforced. Darcy Swain is interestingly going to captain the side this week from the second row. He's up from the bench. Rob Valentini switches to number 6 this week after playing 8 last week to make way for Charlie Cale. And Harrison Goddard is the number 9 this week with last week's captain Ryan Lonergan dropping to the bench. 5-try Corey Toole is still there on the left wing, so certainly also one of the guys to look out for. Interesting also, they benched Nick Frost, who's the Brumbies' top offloading guy, top line-out guy in Super Rugby, so certainly he'll be looking to bring some impact when he does come on. For Moana Pacifica, coming over from Perth after their good win last week, they've kept things pretty stable in some of the positions you thought might change, like Lele Whānau retains the number 10 jersey after starting there last week. Tamu Folau showed a bit of gas last week. He's still there in the left wing, but the front row does see 2 changes with Molly and Mafaleo getting starts in number 2 and number 3 this week after being on the bench last week, and also D'Angelo Leua is there at 12 and Patafilo up from the bench at 13. So it's an all-new midfield with, unfortunately, Savea and Taiafu being injured. They've also got Simisi Paia, who will get his Moana Pacifica debut if he comes off the bench. Saturday games, the early kickoff is the Drua up against the Waratahs. You've got to love a bit of afternoon rugby. It's probably going to be pretty warm. Conditions might be a factor for the Tars boys, but for the Drua, they're bolstered by the return of Tavita Ikanaveri at the hooker jersey. He is certainly one to bust over from close range if you give him a chance, so they'll be looking to front up with those big forwards of theirs, and the rest of the forward pack is largely pretty stable. The only other change being Masaki and Dongier in that tight head after not playing last week. The rest of the forwards is all stable. Tiralangi still captain side from number 8. Lomani comes in at 9 alongside Armstrong Ravula. So the number 9 jersey has been rotating a bit, but 10 has been pretty stable. Rakuro also gets a start this week. Vota comes in at number 12, and the rest of the back line is pretty much the same. Ravu Tamanda maybe being the star of the show, leading the way for defenders beaten in Super Rugby, up there with clean breaks. And Apele Momo also back into the 23. Danger Man will come off the bench as well. For the Tars, if they can handle the heat, well, they're bolstered by a few guys returning as well. They've got Angus Bell, who starts this week at loose head alongside Vailanu and Harry Johnson-Holmes. The rest of the forward pack's pretty stable, with the likes of Hannigan and tackle machine, Charlie Gamble and whatnot. Jake Gordon and Taine Bed still 9-10, but they have made a couple of changes into the outside backs, with Nawani Tawase shifting back to the right wing with the return of Max Jorgensen at fullback. It is a 6-2 split for the Tars this week. Maybe worried about some tired legs coming to the end of the game, so just Jack Grant and Tristan Riley, the only two backs on the bench. Another afternoon kickoff, Chiefs taking on the Highlanders, 4:45. Jared Prophet starts at loosehead for the Chiefs this week, so that is a change from last week. He wasn't in the 23. Also, Bradley Slater and Tyrone Thompson are the two hookers, with Tokiaho kind of on All Blacks rest duties. Locks have changed once again, with Josh Lord back into the starting lineup after being on the bench last week, and Tupavai also returning. The loose forwards are the same. 9-10 combo is the same, with Ratima and D-Mac still tearing it up in those jerseys. Tupaia gets a start after being on the bench last week. There's no ALB. He's had concussion protocols to go through, so he is out of the 23. And maybe the biggest kind of returning name is Imoni Narawa. It feels like he's been sitting outside of rugby for a very long time. He is finally ready to come back and will come off the bench. For the Highlanders, they've also made a few changes in the forward pack. Aidan Johnson's up from the bench. Henry Bell's up from the bench. Sean Worthy's up from the bench. Tom Sanders switches positions. Billy Harmon is one of the consistent guys at number 7, also one of the top tacklers, I think second in Super Rugby thus far. Reece Patchell, I'm chuffed to see him back, because his relationship with Folau Fakatava in the 10 and 9 jerseys respectively have been on absolute fire, so we'll see what the Welshman can do alongside the All Black. The rest of the back line is pretty much the same, except for Naraki also being into the 23. No Ethan de Groot for the Landers this week. Same thing as ALB, kind of going through the concussion protocol, return to play stuff. Blues Crusaders, first game at Eden Park this year for the Blues. What an opponent to have. And the currently winless Crusaders, the Blues won't want to be the first team that kind of succumbs to what you feel like is going to be the eventual resurgence of the Crusaders. Ricky Riccatelli is back into the 23, but his return will not be potentially as celebrated as much as Captain Patrick Tupoloto being back into the 23. His 100th game. It's kind of one of the strange byproducts about him being injured in that preseason tour to Japan, is the fact that he gets his 100th game at Eden Park, so that's going to be a special moment for Big Paddy. The rest of the forward pack is pretty much unchanged except for Ta'avao, who gets a start this week after being on the bench. The back line is also largely pretty stable, with AJ Lamb coming in at 13, with Rico also going through the concussion protocols. Kurt Eklund is dropped to the bench for this one, and Funaki will be hoping he doesn't have to play on the wing. There are 3 backs on the bench for the Blues this week, so hopefully not for the Crusaders. They have had to make a few changes, but Sever Reece is there on the right wing, and he's been maybe the star of the show with his kind of 4 tries. Jamie Hanna's up from the bench. The rest of the front row is the same. The back row is the same. And Tom Christie has been an absolute revelation. I say revelation, but he's been doing it every week. 89 tackles thus far in Super Rugby. The next best is 71, so a big difference between him and the next guy. But most of the changes come on the bench. Joe Moody's back, Seb Calder's there, Corey Keller's there, Noah Hotham there. So all guys who didn't play last week who are into the 23. And the final game sees the Force taking on the Reds. Winless Force will be looking to get a win themselves. Disappointing thus far. Reds, though, have been high-flying. The Force have been bolstered by the return of Nick White, who missed out with a knee injury last week. The front 5 are the same. Actually, the entire forward pack there's no changes there whatsoever, so the coach backing them to get a bit of consistency in. Bailey Kunzel switches to the right wing, with Sam Spink being back in the midfield, and then Harry Potter shifts to the number 15 jersey. It's not a 6-2 split for the Force this week. It is a 5-3-1 for a change. And for the Reds, high-flying Reds, like I mentioned, bolstered by Sami's return, but it's the back row that's been setting the game on fire. Liam Wright, Fraser McCright, Harry Wilson have just been in barnstorming form. The hands of these guys has just been so hard for teams to keep up with. Matt Fassler's bagged a bunch of tries. A couple of changes with McLaughlin Phillips and Liner kind of swapping jerseys this week. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on how the round is going to go. Take your kids along to the games, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.